Welcome to Headline News. This is Maria Han. Trump expresses concern about the border crisis and may visit the U.S Mexico border soon. Former U.S. President Donald Trump's aide James Miller recently told the media that Trump may soon visit the U.S Mexico border amid the intensifying border crisis. On Thursday, March 25th, during a podcast interview with The Michael Berry Show, Miller said, "Not immediately, but I could see a trip some point in the future here, but it is something that President Trump is really concerned about." Trump hasn't visited the southern border since Biden took office. The reason was because he wanted Biden to see firsthand the failure brought by reversing Trump's immigration policies, Miller explained. He added, Trump mentioned that if he were still in the presidency, the current surge of illegal immigration wouldn't have happened. On Sunday, March 21st, Trump issued a statement that criticized the Biden administration for turning, quote, a national victory into a national disaster in just a few weeks in office. He urged Biden to, quote, immediately complete the wall, which can be done in a matter of weeks. They should never have stopped it. They are causing death and human tragedy. In the statement, Trump also said, "We proudly handed the Biden administration the most secure border in history. All they had to do was keep this smooth-running system on autopilot. They are in way over their heads and taking on water fast." In January, Joe Biden took office as the new president of the United States. He rescinded several of Trump's immigration policies and regulations. Trump and several Republican members of Congress have pointed out that Biden's new immigration policies are the main reason for the surge in illegal immigration and unaccompanied children at the border. The immigration crisis is now continuing to worsen. The border crisis worries many Americans. Biden discussed this issue with reporters at his first presidential news conference on Thursday, March 25th. At the press conference, Yamiche Alcindor, a White House reporter for the left media PBS, asked Biden, "How do you resolve that tension and how are you choosing which families can stay and which can go?" Biden joked, "Well, look, I guess I should be flattered people are coming because I'm the nice guy." He then explained, "There is a significant increase in the number of people coming to the border in the winter months of January, February, March. It happens every year. The reason they're coming is that it's the time they can travel with the least likelihood of dying on the way because of the heat and the desert." But Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas issued a statement on March 16th, which stated that, quote, "We are on pace to encounter more individuals on the southwest border than we have in the last 20 years. At the press conference, Cecilia Vega, a reporter for left media ABC, asked Biden, "You just listed the reasons that people are coming, talking about in-country problems, saying that it happens every year. You blame the last administration, sir. I just got back last night from a reporting trip to the border where I met 9-year-old Josevs, who walked here from Honduras by himself along with another little boy. He had that phone number on him and we were able to call his family. His mother says that he sent her son to this country because she believes that you are not deporting unaccompanied minors like her son. That's why she sent him alone from Honduras. So, sir, you blame the last administration, but is your messaging and saying that these children are and will be allowed to stay in this country and work their way through this process, encouraging families like Josevs to come?" Biden did not answer Vega's question positively, but instead glossed over it vaguely. His answer did not touch on how the problem would be solved. His response was, "The question here is whether, how we go ahead and do this, what we do. There is no easy answer." Biden calls British Prime Minister to propose infrastructure plan to rival China's Belt and Road. U.S. President Joe Biden called UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson on March 26 to propose that the democracies launch an infrastructure plan to rival the CCP's Belt and Road Initiative. According to the Epoch Times, Biden told the media that he suggested to Johnson that, quote, "We should have essentially a similar initiative pulling from the democratic states, helping those communities around the world that, in fact, need help. Before that, Biden also said on March 25th that he would invest heavily in improving U.S. infrastructure and ensuring that the U.S. wins when competing with the CCP. He said he plans to unveil a $1 trillion plan next week to upgrade U.S. infrastructure, which will ensure increased U.S. investment in technologies such as quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and biotechnology. Biden also said that the CCP has made huge investments in science, technology, and infrastructure, and that U.S. infrastructure investment ranks only 13th in the world, one-third that of China, and that rebuilding infrastructure will be one of his important tasks. China has an overall goal to become the leading country in the world, the wealthiest country in the world, and the most powerful country in the world, Biden said. That's not going to happen on my watch. U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg confirmed on March 26 that the White House is mulling the introduction of a mileage tax to raise funds for the Biden administration's upcoming $1 trillion major infrastructure program. In addition to the infrastructure plan, the White House said the British and U.S. leaders also discussed COVID-19, global health security, climate change, and political stability in China, Iran, and Northern Ireland. The Belt and Road Initiative is an infrastructure initiative launched by CCP leader Xi Jinping in 2013, covering countries in mainland China, Central Asia, North Asia, West Asia, the Indian Ocean coast, the Mediterranean coast, South America, and the Atlantic region along China's historic Silk Road and Maritime Silk Road. According to Reuters, more than 100 countries have signed on to the Belt and Road Initiative, with cooperation projects including rail, ports, highways, and other infrastructure as of mid-last year. More than 2,600 Belt and Road projects have been signed, amounting to $3.7 trillion. However, after the COVID-19 pandemic, the Chinese authorities also said that about 20% of the Belt and Road projects were seriously affected. In addition, according to a study published in 2020 by the Center for Global Development, a Washington-based think tank, CCP's commercial loans to emerging market countries, which have shorter repayment terms and grace periods than World Bank loans but higher interest rates, have increased the debt risk of these countries as COVID-19 became a global pandemic. According to Brad Parks, author of the report and executive director of the Aid Data program at the College of William and Mary, a growing number of low-income countries were already in debt distress or at great risk of debt distress even before the COVID-19 pandemic. 44% of low-income countries are now in debt distress compared to 23% just 6 years ago. Many Cambodians fear that the CCP's Belt and Road Investment Program and the Cambodian government's growing dependence on Beijing will make their country a vassal for the CCP. Biden administration might launch vehicle miles travel tax to fund major infrastructure. United States Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg said on Friday, March 26, that the White House was studying the introduction of a vehicle miles travel tax to raise money for the Biden administration's upcoming $1 trillion mega infrastructure plan. In an interview with CNBC, Buttigieg said that the Biden administration's plan to improve infrastructure facilities such as highways and bridges across the United States would ultimately benefit taxpayers. So the plan is important for job creation, infrastructure improvement, and climate change. Buttigieg expects that the government will have several ways to fund the major infrastructure program. Vehicle miles travel tax on driving is not based on the amount of fuel used, but on the distance the car travels. He said the new tax could be a stable source of tax revenue, which aligns with the user pays principle. In his first press conference since taking office on Thursday, Biden said rebuilding U.S. infrastructure and technological power was a priority of his presidency, which he believed is critical to restoring the U.S. economy and could boost U.S. competitiveness against China. But a judge also indicated in the interview that the White House was considering relaunching the Rebuild America bonds, a special local government bond variety that was also launched under former President Barack Obama. But external reactions to this are different. The famous hedge fund company Bridgewater founder Ray Dalio was interviewed, expecting that U.S. taxpayers should be psychologically prepared. The Biden administration will have a significant tax increase. Dalio also criticized radical Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren's proposal for a tax on the rich, arguing that a tax on the rich would lead to the erosion of America's capitalist advantage. Dalio believed that any tax increases will have a negative effect on the U.S. stock market, the extent of which will depend on the details of the tax increase. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.